We're going to start with lesson 12, which was the last lesson in A1 video course. But here we will start with past tense. So one of the first topics we are covering is past tense vocabulary together with city vocabulary and getting around the city. First, we're going to go over vocabulary here. Take a look at the word list and translate the words you know, or you can guess the meanings of other words, and you can check with me at the end. I'm going to show you the translation. So you can pause here and check the answers. Okay, here we have the translation. Kafić and kafana are not the same. Kafić is cafe or coffee shop. Well, kafana, most of you probably been to kafana. It's a traditional restaurant with traditional music and traditional food, something close to a tavern. So if you go to Serbia, you have to go to kafana, especially the ones in Belgrade and Skadarlija. Železnička stanica, some students ask me what does želez mean since train is voz. Železo is an old word for iron, so this means iron station, I guess because of the railway. Let me go over the pronunciation of these words. Grad, ulica, zgrada, kafić, kafana, restoran, prodavnica, autobuska stanica, železnička stanica, aerodrom, crkva, škola, apoteka, pekara, mesara, bolnica, spomenik, tvrđava, pozorište, bioskop, zoološki vrt, pijaca, menjačnica, trg, pošta. In the next slide we have a little bit more, so write the answers and check with me at the end. Here's the translation of the rest of them. So ambasada, vatrogasna stanica, policijska stanica, stan, reka, most, fontana, tržni centar, bazen, teretana, fakultet. Fakultet is a school at university, but we often just say idem na fakultet instead of idem na univerzitet, because mostly one city has one university, so we specify which school at that university, medicinski fakultet, filološki fakultet, and similar. Okay, now we're going to go over directions vocabulary, how to ask for directions and give directions. Here's the translation. Let me read. So, gde je, gde se nalazi, kako da dođem do, da li je something blizu or daleko, da li mogu da idem peške do, gde mogu da čekam autobus, koji autobus staje ovde, da li idete do aerodroma. Then we have levo, desno, napred, nazad, blizu, daleko, peške, and ugao. On the next slide we have verbs. Pitati, skrenuti, doći, izgubiti se, pomoći, tražiti, naći, proći. Okay, let's go over the text, a dialogue, which uses the directions in city vocabulary. Izvinite, kako da dođem do ambasade? A, to je blizu. Treba da idete pravo, pored apoteke i skrenete u prvu ulicu u levo. Hvala najlepše. Da li je neka prodavnica blizu? Da, u ovoj velikoj ulici ima mnogo prodavnica. Možete da skrenete ovde desno. U redu. Moram da pošaljem paket. Da li znate gdje je pošta? Pošta je u centru grada, u Makedonskoj ulici. Da li moram da idem autobusom do pošte? Ne morate. Možete ići peške. Hvala najlepše, još jednom. So, translation, you can translate yourself and check with me. Excuse me, how do I get to the embassy? Ah, that's close. You need to go straight, next to the pharmacy, and turn to the first street on the left. Thank you kindly. Is any shop nearby? Yes, in this big street, there's a lot of shops. You can turn right here. All right. I have to send a parcel or package. Do you know where the post office is? The post office is in the city center, in Makedonskoj Street. Do I have to go by bus to the post office? You don't have to. You can go on foot. Thank you kindly once more. That's the translation. Okay, here we have one more text which connects to the previous stuff we covered in A1 course, together with the house vocabulary. So we need to translate it from English to Serbian. Write your translation if you want and check with mine. Živim u malom stanu u Nišu. Niš je grad u južnoj Srbiji. Volim moj grad i moje ljude. Idem na univerzitet svaki dan. Čekam autobus na autobuskoj stanici blizu mojeg stana. Učim na univerzitetu 4 sata i onda idem u centar grada. U centru imamo veliki spomenik. Mi također imamo veliku tvrđavu i park u tvrđavi. Ima stari rimski spomenik, vila, Medijana. Grad ima lepu reku. Možete piti kafu u kafiću pored reke. Volim da idem da šetam u parku. Uveče obično idem u veliku teretanu. Vežbam u teretani 1 sat i onda idem kući da se tuširam. Ako je petak, idem u moj omiljeni bar da vidim moje prijatelje. Bar je u maloj ulici Kazandžijsko Sokače. U baru pijem pivo. So the point of this text is to practice accusative and locative with the same word. Look, I live in a small flat in Niš, so u Nišu. And then Niš je grad, locative, nominative. Or we had, for example, imamo veliku tvrđavu i park u tvrđavi, locative. So tvrđavu accusative, tvrđavu locative. Depending on which verb you use, which preposition you use, all that we went over in A1 course, you need to use a specific case. We also had a little bit of genitive, pored mojeg stana, if you remember that. But we'll go over genitive in more detail in this course as well. Some unfamiliar words may be Roman, which is rimski, villa, which is villa. Kazandžijsko Sokače is the name of that small street. 2 more exercises to practice stuff from A1 course, and then we're going to start new stuff, past tense. We need to translate these sentences, translate yourself, pause the video, and then check with my answers later. Here is the translation. I used prijatelj in masculine here. You can use feminine if you want, prijateljice. This is locative. Knjiga, we have to change g to z in front of letter e, for example, in locative or plural. Moje škole is feminine locative. Ukusnu večeru is accusative. Večeras means tonight, while uveče means in the evening. Velikom parku is locative masculine, singular. Njihove mačke is nominative feminine. Zelenom kauču is masculine, locative, singular. Veliki auto is masculine, it's an exception. Njihovom or svojem even dvorištu is fine, that's locative, neuter, singular. And one more translation exercise. Here's the translation. Njihovi prijatelji nisu u malom parku. Moja mama ne gleda film u dnevnoj sobi. So malom parku is masculine singular, dnevnoj sobi is feminine singular, both are locative. The point is to make the verb negative here. Ne pričaju u dvorištu, masculine singular, toplu supu is accusative, tvoj kuhinji is locative, novi telefon is still accusative, The last one can be interesting. Neće da, to give. Dati dam is the verb to give. Dati dam, which means to give. And present is in third person, da. So we have to give, us. Nama is dative of me, which is a topic for B1 level. Kratak test is accusative and sutra is tomorrow. Okay, time to go over past tense. So past tense in Serbian is the past tense you're going to use. There is no past continuous, past simple. There are ways to explain or show that the action is long lasting or short action, but not in using tenses. We use verbal aspect. How do we build past tense? For building past tense, we need two parts. First part is the auxiliary helping verb, which will be verb to be, sam. Sam si yes, most su. And the second part is the verb that you're actually going to change through past tense, but the infinitive form of it. So we need infinitive base or stem, which we get by crossing out t from infinitive. For now, we're going to focus on the verbs ending on t in infinitive. You may already know that infinitive can also end on chi or sati, and the approach for building past tense will be different there. So essentially, this is how past tense looks like. Ja sam radio. This changes through person. So that's our first part, or this here. And this part changes through gender. So we tell apart genders in past tense. So we take infinitive from the verb raditi and build this. And let me show you how that works. So cross out t and add the endings o, la, lo, li, le, la. These are endings for singular and plural, masculine, feminine, neuter. O is masculine, lo is neuter. Don't mix them up. As a matter of fact, neuter gender, you're not going to use it that much. Neuter gender in past tense is used in third person. And even there, instead of neuter gender, you can use masculine or feminine. For example, we have a word dete, which is neuter gender. And when I talk about a child, I won't use neuter. For example, ono je spavalo, it was sleeping. I would rather use he or she pronoun and combine it with o or la. On je spavao, ona je spavala, and similar. There are some instances where you have to use it, but for now, I think mostly we're going to focus on masculine and feminine. In plural, li ending is added for, let's say, some kind of general plural, meaning that it can be added for a group of mixed male or female, but also only for male, while le ending for plural is added for group of female and la for group of neuter. So once you have that, for example, here, you combine it with the first part or put auxiliary or helping verb after the verb you changed to past tense. This second part is even more frequent than the first. Why? Because all information is there. We have information about person here. So we know it's sam, since the verb is different in every person. We know that sam is a pronoun for first person. And we have information for gender here. And in both o and sam, we have information about grammatical number, singular or plural. So ya is redundant. You can, of course, use it. We would use it maybe in the first sentence to introduce the subject and later on skip it if the subject in every sentence is the same. But you can straight away just start with the verb and put sam after. Why is sam second, not first? Because sam doesn't have its own accent or stress. It borrows the stress from the word before it. So when you pronounce it or you say this, it sounds like a one word, radiosam. And that's why sam is here. If you want to negate or make a negative past tense, you don't negate this verb, you negate sam. So you just write nisam, which technically means I'm not. Here it means I was not. And you write that negative form. In short version, what's important is that nisam still goes to the left side of the verb. Compare negative with previous affirmative version. So radiosam, but nisam radio. That's very important. So nisam always goes to the left side of the verb. Here's the full form of past tense. Ja sam radio, ja sam radila. Ti si radio, ti si radila. For third person singular and plural, you have each ending for each pronoun. On je radio, ona je radila, ono je radilo. And then for plural, mi smo radili, mi smo radile, and so on and so on. So you have to pay attention to which gender the subject is in, so you can apply the correct ending for gender. And here's the same thing, but the short form where you start with the verb. Radio sam, radila sam. Radio si, radila si, and so on, without yati on. So here we have a first exercise in past tense. We need to fill in the gaps using the past tense. We start with the subject. So that means the second word will be auxiliary or helping verb. Sam, si, jes, moste, su. And then you put the subject in the correct gender. For some pronouns like me and we, we don't know if it's a group of male or female, so you can do both. If you want, you can do only one. I'll do both so you can see how both will look like. So let's do this. Pause here and check the answers later. Here are the answers. So plivali or plivale, radili or radile. Those are the male or female subjects. For ona here, she was writing a report. Ona could have been neuter. Ona su pisala would also be a correct answer. But usually when you see ona, you should assume that it's feminine mostly. Group of neuter subjects or subject that is neuter in plural is rare. And we would rather replace it with masculine or feminine pronoun. So she was writing a report. Okay, now we're going to do the same, but don't start with subject or the pronouns. Start with the verb first. You have which subject to use or which person to use, but the verb should be the first word. Pause and check later. Here are the answers. Kupili smo, zvao je, ustali ste or ustale ste, and so on. We have translation using past tense, but also using accusative and locative grammatical cases that we went over before. Here are the answers. So some subjects can be masculine or feminine. I use masculine here, I use feminine here. You can do the otherwise. Okay, here we have an exercise where we need to transfer verbs from present to past tense, which can be usually hard. Typically, you can just switch the ending for present with the ending for past, but some verbs like hoće, which have which are irregular, which have very different infinitive from present tense, it can be hard to really know what's the base or this infinitive stem. So I'll translate and you try and check with my answers. Okay, here it is. Slušaju, so by taking out this, you can get to the infinitive stem, kinda, even though that's not the approach you should always do. So moji prijatelji su slušali. Hoće has infinitive that's hteti, so it doesn't start with ho. It's not hoteli, so hteli su. Ma je pričala, so you add la there. You take out this, add li. You actually don't take out anything, you add an ending here. And moram is the verb which has to be past tense, that's morao sam. So this isn't some rule or a pattern that you have to do, since you always have to know the infinitive. So if you have a totally new verb that you haven't seen before, ideally you should open up a dictionary, find the infinitive and build from there. Which is not the best option because you don't always have the dictionary with you. My approach when learning languages is if I see a new verb, I write it down in infinitive and first person present form, or any relevant form essentially, and build it from there. So you can use a Google Translate. I think I mentioned this before. Use a Google Translate as a dictionary to find new verbs and note them down, find them in infinitive and start building from there. Or after some time, you should develop a feeling for it, like here, and notice some patterns. Essentially, that's how learning a language works, noticing patterns and developing a feeling for a language. You don't have to understand everything, how it works. No one really does. The most speakers of the language you're learning don't really know how that language works and why the rules are like that, right? So we need to find the middle ground in there, and also depending on your learning goals. Maybe you like learning more grammar, maybe you like more learning practical stuff and conversation topics. Asking questions in past tense, we might have a lesson dedicated to this in the future, but essentially what you need to remember is after you use Dali, you need to use an enclitic first. Enclitic is a word without accent, so auxiliary verb, helping verb. Sam, si, yes, moste, su. Here we have, did you call your parents? So a sentence, you called your parents, would be pozvali ste svoje roditelje. Svoje is a possessive pronoun for each person. So if you want to make a question after that, you put dali first, of course, and this ste has to go here. That's the rule. And then the rest of the verb. So after dali, all enclitics should go. We had this in present tense, dali si dobro, dali su oni učenici. And this is the same thing. Since it's a past of past tense, it goes there. Dali je gledao film. Dali su hteli, always hteli, not hoteli, da idu u Beograd. Da li je vozila veliki auto? Da li smo naručili hranu? So always after dali use the helping auxiliary verb. Telling time is one topic that we had in A1 level course, so we're going to skip it for now. Check again there how to say half an hour until the next hour, how to specify minutes left until the next hour. We're going to read a text. I will read it. You can listen and follow the text as I go, and then translate and check your translation with my translation at the end. Šta si radio juče? Juče je bio dug dan. Ustao sam rano ujutru u 7 sati. Otišao sam u WC da perem zube. Vratio sam se u spavaću sobu da se obučem. Posle toga sam otišao u kuhinju da spremim kafu. Pio sam kafu u dnevnoj sobi i gledao sam televizor. Seo sam u kola i otišao sam na posao u 15 do 8. U kolima sam slušao muziku. Stigao sam na posao u 8 sati. Radio sam u kancelariji do 1 sat i onda sam otišao u restoran da ručam. Vratio sam se u kancelariju i imao sam sastanak do 4:30. Vratio sam se kući oko 5 sati. Moja žena je došla u 6:15. Večerali smo i pričali. Otišli smo da prošetamo u gradu i onda smo popili kafu u našem omiljenom kafiću u centru. Vratili smo se u stan u 9 sati. Ja sam čitao novu knjigu, a moja žena je slušala muziku. Otišao sam da spavam u 11 sati. So past tense is really good because most of the thing you talk about happened before. So you have a lot of topics you can talk about in past tense and a lot of topics to use the past tense for. And this is explaining like your previous day. What did you do yesterday? I'll translate. Yesterday was a long day. I got up early in the morning at 7 o'clock. I went to the bathroom to wash my teeth. I returned to the bedroom to get dressed. After that, I went to the kitchen to prepare coffee. I drank coffee in the living room and I watched a TV. I sat in the car and I went to work at 7:45 or 15 until 8. By the way, this sat in the car, we use a word sit a lot to say that you entered. So you can say seo sam u kafić. I sat into the coffee shop, which technically means I entered, you know. sat into a car, and similar. Okay, let's continue. In the car, I listened to music. I arrived at work at 8 o'clock. I worked in the office until 1 o'clock, and then I went to the restaurant to have lunch. I returned to the office and had a meeting until 4:30. I returned home around 5 o'clock. My wife came at 6:15. We had dinner and talked. We went for a walk in the city and then we drank coffee in our favorite coffee shop in the center. We returned to the apartment at 9 o'clock. I read a new book and my wife listened to music. I went to sleep at 11 o'clock. Okay, so that's the text in past tense. We'll read one more, which is a dialogue, which uses a little bit more spoken Serbian and past tense. And then we can talk about topics that you can use to talk in past tense. Ćao Ivane, gde si bio juče? Zvao sam te, ali nisi se javio. Ćao, ma bio sam ceo dan u gradu. Imao sam 100 stvari da završim. Stvarno? Šta si sve radio? Prvo sam išao u pekaru u centru, uzeo sam hleb i burek. Bila je velika gužva. Aha, bio sam i ja tamo pre 2 dana. Dobra je pekara. Posle toga sam otišao u knjižaru. Morao sam da kupim nešto za sestru. Uzeo sam joj jednu knjigu za školu. Koju knjižaru? Onu malu u ulici kod apoteke? Onu kod pošte, znaš, onu malu u ulici Kralja Petra? Znam. Tamo uvek imaju dobre knjige. Posle toga sam svratio u apoteku jer sam imao glavobolju. Nije ti bio lag dan. Nije, stvarno. A onda sam još išao do prodavnice da kupim mleko, sir i voće. Bio sam mrtav umoran kad sam stigao kući. Verujem. A jesi možda prošao pored onog novog bioskopa u centru? Jesam, video sam ga. Imaju dobre filmove. Super. Ajde da odemo tamo sutra zajedno. Može, ajde. Sutra nemam ništa posebno da radim. Probably more unfamiliar words, but let me translate. Hi Ivan, where were you yesterday? I called you, but you didn't answer. Javiti se, to answer. Hey, hi. I was in the city the whole day. I had 100 things to finish. Ma is a filler word. Technically it doesn't mean anything. I think we use it, let's say, for context that not important, to start a sentence with something that's not as important. You want to express that it's something ordinary. That's one way of explaining it, at least. I had 100 things. Stvari are things to finish, meaning I had 100 things, a lot of things to do. Really? What did you do? This literally means what's everything you did. First, I went to a bakery in the center. I took bread and burek. It was really crowded. Gužva is a noun. So it's not crowded as an adjective in English. It's a noun which means like crowd or high traffic or a lot of people at one place. Aha, I was there also 2 days ago. It's a good bakery. This E doesn't mean and, it means also. After that, I went to a bookstore. I had to buy something for my sister. I took her one book for school. We don't have to say moju sestru. We can just say sestru. And joj is dative of ona, which again is a little bit which is a topic for a little bit later. Which bookstore? The one in a small street at the pharmacy? The one at the post office. You know, the little one in Kralja Petra Street? I know. They always have good books there. Tamo is there. After that, A is a filler exclamation sound, I guess. After that, I stopped by to a pharmacy because I had a headache. Svratiti, svratim, to stop by. Glavobolja, nominative, headache. It wasn't an easy day for you. It wasn't really. And then I went to the shop to buy milk cheese, and fruit. I was dead tired when I returned home. Mrtav umoran means dead tired. It's an expression. I was really tired. This T is dative of ja. I believe you. And did you maybe pass the new movie theater in the center? I did, I saw it. They have good movies. Great. Let's go there together tomorrow. Sure, let's do it. Tomorrow I have nothing special to do. Video sam ga, I saw it. We use ga, which is a masculine pronoun of on in accusative. Again, we haven't done that yet. We will in B1 level. Ajde is short form of hajde without h, which is very common in spoken Serbian. And that's about it. So that's spoken Serbian, which is always a little bit harder to understand than the Serbian you learn in lessons or texts in books or textbooks. Here's some questions to answer, some texts to write, or to talk about someone if you have a friend that speaks Serbian, family member, or similar. So, šta ste vi radili juče? What did you do yesterday? Šta ste radili za vikend? Šta ste radili prošlog meseca? What did you do for the weekend? What did you do last month? Da li ste bili u Srbiji i šta ste radili tamo? So, were you in Serbia before and what did you do there? Those are very good topics for practicing past tense. So, write the text, check with someone who speaks Serbian, or engage in conversation with someone. That's it for lesson 12, or the first lesson in A2 level course. Next time, we're going to expand on past tense and see how to build the past tense of verbs that end on chi and sti in infinitive, together with reflexive verbs in one of the next lessons. And then we're going to move on to other grammatical cases, starting with a review of genitive. Thank you for learning Serbian with me. Hvala I vidimo se.